pour cette belle journée. On a Valentina qui est acrobate.
Valentina, who's an
On a
acrobat.
Cruz qui est une
We
pilote.
have Cruz, who's a pilot.
On a évidemment
And of course,
Anaïda,
we have
qui est la
Anaïda,
patronne.
who is the
Et on
boss.
a aussi notre pingouin.
And of course, we
qui fait
have our
partie de notre
penguin,
famille.
who is part of our family as well. We're here
notre campagne
to launch
pour mettre
our
le Canada
campaign
d'abord,
to put Canada
pour faire
first,
changement.
to make a change.
Aujourd'hui,
And today,
les libéraux demandent une
the
quatrième
Liberals
mandat.
are asking for a
Après avoir
fourth term
remplacé Justin Trudeau
after replacing
par
Justin
son
Trudeau
conseiller économique, Mark Carney.
by his
Mais après
economic
les
advisor,
décennies
Mark
perdues
Carner.
des libéraux,
But
la question
we're talking about the
est
lost
suivante.
Liberal decade.
Est-ce
And
que
so
les
what
Canadiens
is
peuvent
the
vraiment
question?
se permettre
Can
de donner
Canadians
un quatrième
really allow
aux
themselves to give
libéraux
a
qui ont
fourth
doublé le
term
coût
to
du logement,
Liberals who doubled the cost of
doubler
housing,
les files d'attente aux banques
doubled
alimentaires,
lineups in front of food
doubler
banks,
la dette nationale,
doubled the national debt,
libérer des criminels, briser notre
released
système
criminals,
d'immigration,
broke our
bloquer nos
immigration
ressources
system,
naturelles
blocked
et
our resources
affaibli
from being developed,
notre
and
économie
weakened our economy
face à Donald Trump.
in relation to
Ou
Donald Trump.
Mettons le Canada d'abord
Or
pour faire changement.
can we put
Avec un
Canada
nouveau
first and bring
gouvernement
about change
conservateur
with a new conservative
qui va
government
couper les taxes et
that will
impôts,
cut taxes,
qui va libérer nos ressources naturelles,
unleash our natural
bâtir des
resources,
logements,
build
sécuriser
housing,
nos frontières,
secure our borders,
et ramener nos emplois
and
ici
bring
avec une
back
économie
jobs
forte
to Canada with a
pour
strong economy
se tenir tête à Donald
so that we
Trump
can stand
dans
up to
une
Donald
position
Trump
de
and be
force.
in a position of strength.
Mais avant de décrire cette
But
décision,
before I describe all of
reconnaître
that, I think it's important to
que beaucoup de
recognize
gens
that
s'en
many
inquiètent
people are worried
et en colère
and
à cause des
angry
menaces non
because of the
justifiées et non
unjustified threats
justifiables
and unjustifiable
Trump.
threats made by President Trump.
Je partage la colère
I share that
et
anger
les inquiétudes.
and that
Je
concern.
m'inquiète pour les gens qui
I'm
ont peur
worried
de perdre leurs emplois.
about people who
Donc,
run the
qu'est-ce qu'on
risk of
devrait
losing
faire?
their jobs. So
On doit
what can we do?
convertir
We have to
notre colère
convert our
et
anger
anxiété
and our anxiety
action.
into
On
action.
doit devenir fort
We have to become
autonome
strong, self-reliant, and
pour
sovereign
tenir tête aux Américains.
to stand up to the Americans.
On va faire face à cette menace.
We will
avec courage
face that
et
threat with
détermination.
courage and
Et soyez
determination.
assurés,
And rest
nous
assured
allons jamais faire
that
partie
we
des
will
États-Unis.
never be
Nous
part of the
allons
United
défendre
States.
notre
We will
souveraineté et
defend
notre
our
liberté.
sovereignty and our
Liberté
freedom.
en tant que Canadiens.
Freedom as
Je vais
Canadians.
protéger notre
I will
pays
protect
et
this
je vais
country,
mettre le Canada
and I will
d'abord.
put Canada first.
Mais avant de vous dire comment,
But before I
Je vais
tell
le
you
faire.
how I intend to do that,
laissez-moi vous dire,
let me
Pourquoi?
tell you why.
ce pays m'a donné tout.
This country gave me everything that I
Au
have,
Canada.
everything
Nulle part
that I have
ailleurs
in
mon
Canada,
histoire
and nowhere
n'aurait
else
été possible.
would I have been able to do what I have done.
À une mère
I was
monoparentale
born to
de
a
16
single
ans
parent
qui m'a donné
mother
en adoption.
and who
à deux
gave me
enseignants.
up for adoption to two
Ils m'ont
teachers.
appris beaucoup de choses, mais
They taught
surtout
me many
qu'au
things,
Canada, peu importe
but
mes origines
particularly
modestes,
the idea
avec le
that
travail,
Canada,
je pouvais
whatever my
réaliser mes
background,
rêves.
I could
C'était la promesse
realize
pour
my
tous les
dreams,
Canadiens.
and that was the promise
Et je
made
veux
to
que
all
cette
Canadians.
promesse
And I
soit
want that
établie pour
promise
tout
to
le
be
monde.
restored
La
for all
promesse que
Canadians.
chacun qui
The
travaille
promise
fort
that someone who works
peut
hard
s'offrir une belle
can
maison
have a great home
sur une rue sécuritaire,
on a safe
protégée
street,
par des soldats
protected
courageux
by brave
sous notre
soldiers
fier
under
drapeau.
our proud
C'est ça la
flag.
promesse du Canada
That is
que
the
je veux
promise of
rétablir.
Canada that I wish to
Parce
restore.
qu'après une décennie
Because after a
perdue des
decade,
libérales,
a lost
des
decade
libéraux,
under the
la
Liberals,
promesse du Canada
the promise
est brisée.
of Canada
Les
is
hausses de
broken.
taxes et d'impôts
Higher
des
taxes
libéraux ont fait grimper
under the
le
Liberals
prix
have
des
driven up
aliments
the
de
price of
37%
food by
plus vite qu'aux
37%
États-Unis.
faster than in the
Certaines
United
mères
States.
célibataires
Some single
se
mothers
couchent avec le main
go to
avec
bed
le ventre vide.
with an empty stomach,
Elles inquiètent à savoir
and they're worried
qu'est-ce que leurs enfants vont manger
about
le lendemain.
what their children will have to eat
Les
the next
aînés
day.
doivent choisir
Seniors
entre
have
manger
to choose
chauffer.
between food and
les prix
heating
des
their
loyers ont
home.
doublé parce que les
The price of
libéraux
housing
ont
has doubled
gonflé
because the
la
Liberals
demande
drove
pour
up the demand for property through immigration and printing money totally out of control, while at the same time blocking construction of housing with red tape. They drove up the cost of housing with more bureaucracy, and now an entire generation of Canadians cannot access a home. And they weakened our borders, and the liberal drug policies meant to more violence and more people dying. Higher taxes and blocking resource projects meant that Canada has had the worst economic growth in the G7 and drove $500 billion of money to the United States, weakening us in relation to Donald Trump. And all of that before the tariffs hit. And through their radical, post-globalist ideology under the Liberals, we have become a divided country, and that has weakened our unity. Desperate now to receive a fourth term, the Liberals have replaced Justin Trudeau by his economic advisor, Mark Carney. But a Liberal is still a Liberal. They're all the same MPs, the same Liberal ministers, the same Liberal advisors, the same Liberal elites, and the same promises that weren't kept in 10 years under the Liberals. We cannot allow ourselves another lost Liberal decade. We must put Canada first and bring about a change. We're going to do that with a new Conservative government that will cut taxes, make sure that work pays, free up our entrepreneurs, develop our natural resources, build housing, bring back jobs to Canada, secure our border, honor our history, raise our flag, and stand up to Donald Trump's threats. And that starts with lower taxes on work, on housing, on energy, and on investments. Cutting taxes for change. That will bring back jobs to Canada and encourage workers. We will give municipalities incentives to accelerate permitting for construction and free up land to allow us to build more housing. And again, we will eliminate the GST on homes so that young people can access housing. This will allow Canadians to be able to dream of owning a home again. We will also bring back jobs to the natural resources sector for a change. We will repeal the anti-pipeline Liberal legislation C-69 and the cap on energy imposed by the Liberals and Mr. Carney continues to support. We will eliminate the industrial carbon tax and greenlight LNG and pipeline projects, whether it's mines or port facilities. We will create new zones in Canada that will allow for pre-permitting of major projects in specific areas. And we will be able to say yes quickly and allow businesses to start building rather than filling out forms. Industry will be acting to protect Canadians. The new pipeline that the Liberals blocked a few years ago can be developed and will allow Canadians to get around the American market and sell our energy to Europe, and that would break our dependence and Europe's dependence on Russia and Canadians' dependence on Donald Trump. A dual victory with a single project that the Liberals blocked. This would put an end to our dependency and the weakness we now see. We will bring down trade barriers between the provinces to ensure there can be free trade across the country. ensuring that our products and services can circulate freely. We will bring back jobs and unite this country. We will also restore the promise of Canada by having safe communities. We will put criminals in jail, secure our borders, and provide for treatment to addicts so that Canadians can be free of drug addiction. We will deal with immigration and remove the radical initiatives brought in by the Liberals, which is intended to bring Canada's population to 100 million. 100 million. That would double the population of major cities in Canada in the middle of a crisis, a housing crisis. And I'm against the Century Initiative, and we will limit immigration, remove abuse and fraud within the system, to go back to a system that allows us to build more housing, have proper services available for our own population. We will expel criminals and prevent fraudsters from entering this country. When it comes to immigration, as in every other area, we will put Canada first for a change. We will rebuild our army for a change. We will do that with 4 new icebreakers, in fact, and we will add troops and build a new base in the far north and support our veterans. Our troops and our veterans are a source of inspiration. They embody the best of Canada. They remind us as well that we are a strong people capable of defending its sovereignty. We don't want to fight, but we're always prepared to fight if someone threatens us. And none of that will be easy. But the defense of Canada and the creation of this country were not easy either. With change, there can be hope. Hope will return. So I say that for a mother out there who's worried about the cost of feeding her children, hope will soon return. For young people who are 35 who want to leave their parents' basement to buy a house and start a family, change is coming. For seniors who have to choose between heating their home and buying food, change is coming. And for those who have come to Canada and are wondering what has happened after 10 years, I can say that change is coming. A new Conservative government will restore the promise of Canada, the promise that anyone from anywhere can realize his dreams. You work hard and you can have a great home in a secure neighborhood, protected by solid borders and brave soldiers under our proud flag. To preserve that flag and its promise, we must work together, we must fight together, and we must win together for our people, for our land, for our home, for Canada first, for a change. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. Our little munchkins, I think that my little girl got bored and left me, so I'm going to have to give the speech again when we get home. And there's Cruz. He is, as you can see, he's a fighter pilot, and we have our pet penguin with us today, too. We're happy to be here to launch our campaign to restore Canada's promise, and to do it on this very beautiful day. Today, the Liberals are asking for a 4th term in power, after swapping Justin Trudeau for his economic advisor and hand-picked successor, Mark Carney. But after the lost Liberal decade, the question is whether Canadians can afford a 4th Liberal term. After these out-of-touch Liberals inflated housing costs, drove up the cost of food, pushed 2 million people to food banks, unleashed crime on our streets, ruined our immigration system, blocked our resources, sent $500 billion to the United States, and made our economy more reliant on the Americans than ever before? Or is it time to put Canada first for a change with a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, honor hard work, build homes, cut taxes, lock up criminals, secure our borders, unleash resources to bring home our jobs, and stand up to Donald Trump from a position of strength? Now, on that subject, I know a lot of people are worried, angry, and anxious, and with good reason, as a result of the president's unacceptable threats against our country. You worry about your job and the sovereignty of our nation. And you're angry at the feeling of betrayal that these unacceptable words and tariffs have made us all experience. I share your anger and I share the worry for our future. But I also draw great resolve in knowing that we can transform the anxiety and anger into action. First of all, let me be clear. We will never be an American state. We will always be a sovereign and self-reliant country. The action we must take is to become that nation that's strong, self-reliant, and sovereign, capable of standing on its own 2 feet and standing up to the Americans. We will stare down this unprovoked threat with steely resolve because, be assured, Canadians are tough, we are hardy, and we stand up for ourselves. I will protect Canada, and I will always put our country first. But before I tell you how, let me tell you why. This country's given me everything I have. I know my story wouldn't have been possible in any other country in the world. I was born to a 16-year-old single mother who put me up for adoption to 2 school teachers. But they taught me that in Canada, despite humble beginnings, I could achieve anything I wanted. I got into politics to protect and preserve that promise. And that promise means that if you work hard, you get a house, a nice house, on a safe street, protected by brave troops.
Just wanted to let you know as we listen to Pierre Poilievre that Mark Carney is now inside Rideau Hall asking the Governor-General to dissolve Parliament and officially launch this election campaign. He will come out shortly to speak to Canadians. Let's go back now and listen to the Conservative Leader of Canada.
Housing costs have more than doubled. Single moms go to bed hungry, worried how they will feed their children in the morning. Liberals have driven up our housing costs by inflating demand with out-of-control money printing and immigration, while at the same time blocking supply with massive bureaucracies that don't let builders build. So for the first time in the history of Canada, our young people cannot afford homes. Open borders, liberal crime and drug laws have unleashed violence, disorder, and deadly overdoses. 10 years of Liberals hiking taxes and blocking resource projects has pushed $500 billion to the United States, given us the worst growth in the entire G7, and all of this was before the tariffs of Donald Trump. What's more, our nation is more divided than ever before because the liberal, radical, post-national, borderless, and globalist ideology has weakened our nation. Now, desperate for a 4th term, Liberals have replaced Justin Trudeau with his economic advisor and hand-picked successor, Mark Carney. But a Liberal is a Liberal is a Liberal. It's the same old Liberal MPs, the same Liberal ministers, the same Liberal advisors, the same Liberal elites, the same broken Liberal promises of the last 10 years. We cannot afford another lost Liberal decade. We need to put Canada first for a change, with a new Conservative government to axe taxes, reward work, unleash entrepreneurs, harvest our resources, make things here, build homes for our youth, secure our borders, rebuild our military, honor our history, and raise our flag. It starts with a big bring-it-home tax cut on work, investment, energy, and home building. We'll lower taxes to bring home businesses and to make sure Canadians bring home more of their paychecks. And that starts with axing the carbon tax, the entire tax, a tax that the Liberals, with Carney's enthusiastic support, brought in for 7 years and increased over and over. a tax that is still in law, despite the government hiding it from gas stations for the 30 days leading up to the election. A tax they will bring back bigger than ever before if re-elected. And on this point, Mr. Carney and Mr. Trump are in total agreement. They both want to tax Canadian industry. Mr. Carney's carbon tax and Donald Trump's tariffs will destroy Canadian industry, pushing jobs south. But I won't let that happen. A new Conservative government will repeal the carbon tax law, and we will axe the tax for everyone, for everything, for good, forever, and for real. We will also take the sales tax off new homes and incentivize municipalities to speed up permits, free up land, and cut development charges so that we can build homes and restore the dream of home ownership. We will bring home our resource jobs for a change. That means repealing Liberal No New Pipelines Law C-69, lifting the Liberal cap on energy that Carney still supports, quickly approving LNG plants, mines, and other major projects. New Canada First building zones will pre-approve sites for construction so that businesses can get busy working and hiring and building and developing and spend no more time filling out paperwork. With a national pipeline like the one the Liberals blocked not long ago, we can go around the American market, send our oil to Europe, break European dependence on Putin, and break our dependence on the United States of America. A double win. Two birds, one stone. We'll knock down interprovincial trade barriers to have one big, open, free market across our country, moving goods, services, people, nationwide. That will bring home our jobs and bring us together. We'll also bring home safety to our communities by stopping the crime for a change. That means repealing catch and release Liberal laws and imposing mandatory jail time on repeat offenders, banning hard drugs, and offering recovery to bring our loved ones home drug-free. We'll cap immigration and stop the radical Century Initiative, which seeks to almost triple our population to 100 million people. A crazy idea still endorsed by Liberals and their top advisors. That will end when I am Prime Minister. We will also keep fraudsters, and criminals out of our country, and we will crack down on bogus claims. On immigration, like everything else, we will put Canada first for a change. Our troops will have support. Our military will be rebuilt. We will have new icebreakers, new fighter jets, new surveillance aircraft, a brand new base, the first base in the Arctic since the Cold War in Iqaluit. And we will back our veterans to ensure they have good lives after they fought for our country. They remind us that Canada is tough, rugged, strong, hardy. We don't go looking for a fight, but we're ready if one comes looking for us. None of this will be easy, but making and defending Canada wasn't easy either. And with change, there's hope. So I say, to the struggling single mother who worries how she will feed her kids, hope is on the way. To the 35-year-old, still living in mom's basement but dreaming of owning his own place and starting a family, change is on the way. To the seniors choosing between eating and heating. And to all those who wonder what happened to the country that they knew and love, change and hope are both on the way. A new Conservative government will restore Canada's promise, the promise that anyone from anywhere can do anything, that hard work gets you a great life in a beautiful home, on a safe street under a proud flag. To preserve that flag and uphold its promise, we must work together, fight together, and win together for our people, for our land, for our home, for Canada first, for a change. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now take questions. On va maintenant passer aux questions.
Good morning, Mr. Poilievre.
Good morning.
JP Tasker from CBC News.
Thank you.
Do you respect Donald Trump?
I respect the office of the President of the United States, and we have to show respect to other world leaders. The bottom line is the Americans buy 75% of our goods. So whoever's the Prime Minister is going to have to, at some point, deal with President Trump. He was only elected a short time ago. He's going to be around for 4 more years. You can be respectful and firm, and I believe we have to be both. I will insist the President recognize the independence and sovereignty of Canada. I will insist that he stop tariffing our nation. And at the same time, I will strengthen our country so that we can be capable of standing our own 2 feet and standing up to the Americans where and when necessary. That's what it means when I say, let's put Canada first for a change.
En français.
Il faut travailler en esprit de respect.
We have to work in a spirit of respect with any president of the United States. Of course, the Americans buy approximately 75% of our goods. We are their neighbor. I don't respect the treatment he has meted out to our country. And I reiterate that we can be both respectful and firm and strong. And I will be all three. I will defend our sovereignty. I will ensure that we are capable of being more self-reliant and less dependent on the United States. And the best way to counter Donald Trump is to support our own country with a stronger economy and become more independent. That is what putting Canada first is all about.
Next question.
Mr. Poilievre, hello. Stephanie Levitz, the Globe and Mail.
Good morning.
Good morning, almost afternoon. Premier Daniel Smith, Alberta Premier Daniel Smith, has asked the U.S. administration to hold off any further action because it benefits the Liberals politically right now, and says that your direction would be more in sync with the U.S. administration's direction. Do you think her comments are appropriate, and what is your response to them?
Well, my response is that the President has said that he thinks it would be easier to deal with a Liberal, and with good reason. The Liberals have weakened our country. They've blocked resource projects, raised taxes, driving our jobs south into the hands of the Americans. $500 billion of investment has fled our country. They blocked a pipeline that would have allowed us to go around the American market. They've killed LNG liquefaction plants, forcing us to sell all of our natural gas to the Americans at huge price discounts. They've weakened our military and our borders. All of that plays into the hands of President Trump. He's been very blunt that he wants a weak Canada that he can target. And Liberals, after the lost Liberal decade, have made our economy and our country weaker and more divided, just like Trump wanted. Electing Liberals to a 4th term will weaken our country still. That is why we need to put Canada first for a change, with a new Conservative government that will axe taxes, unleash our resource production, build pipelines, secure our border, rebuild our armed forces, and stand up to Donald Trump from a position of strength. Thank you.
En français.
Évidemment,
of course, Mr. Trump prefers the Liberals because the Liberals have weakened this country. They blocked our natural resources. They broke our industries. They drove $500 billion of investments to the United States. They broke our immigration system and our borders. A weak Canada works for President Trump, and after the lost Liberal decade, our economy is weaker. Giving a 4th term to the Liberals will weaken Canada further and further the interests of President Trump against this country. We must put Canada first for a change, with a new Conservative government that will develop our natural resources, cut taxes, bring back jobs and industries to Canada, and confront President Trump from a position of strength.
Prochaine question. Next question.
Yes, sir.
Monsieur Poilievre, Boris Proulx, du Devoir, bienvenue à Gatineau.
Donald Trump fait
Donald
peur
Trump
aux Canadiens.
is
Si on met de côté la question des
scaring
tarifs et
Canadians
son traitement envers notre pays,
with his
juste les politiques
tariffs,
que M.
but
Trump met de
simply
l'avant dans son
Trump's
pays, ça fait
policies
peur aux
being
Canadiens.
introduced in the U.S.
Qu'est-ce que vous
are
dites aux
scaring
Canadiens qui nous
Canadians. So
écoutent,
what do you
qui
say to
voient vos
Canadians who are
discours sur
listening
les
today
fonctionnaires, sur les
and
médias,
who hear
sur
what you're
l'aide
saying about the
internationale, sur les
media,
personnes transgenres
international
et d'autres
aid,
exemples, et qui
transgender
sont
persons and
inquiets
so
des
forth, and who are
similarités
concerned
entre votre
about the
discours et
similarities
l'administration
between
Trump?
what you're saying and what the Trump administration
Je
is
suis
saying?
Canadien.
Well,
Je veux
I'm
mettre notre
Canadian.
pays d'abord
I will put our country
pour
first
faire changement. C'est ça
for a
notre
change.
but.
That is our
Quand
goal.
je dis que je veux
When I
couper
say
les
that I
taxes
want to cut
et
taxes
les impôts pour ramener nos
to
emplois
bring
ici
back jobs to Canada
et favoriser nos travailleurs.
and help our
C'est
workers,
pour les Canadiens, c'est pas
it
pour
is for
les
Canadians that
Américains
I
que je
say
fais
that,
ça.
not for Americans.
C'est quand je veux exploiter nos
And when I
ressources
say that I
naturelles,
want to
bâtir des
develop our
pipelines,
natural resources
c'est à
and
la
build pipelines,
désavantage de Donald Trump de
that
qu'on
is
fasse
to
ça,
the
et c'est à
disadvantage of
notre
President Trump,
avantage
and it's to our advantage
de
that we do that.
rendre le Canada plus souverain
Making
plus fort
Canada stronger and more
face aux
sovereign
Américains. Ça, c'est
in the
dans
face
notre
of the United
intérêt
States
national,
is in
et
our
c'est ce que je
national
vais faire
interest, and that's
comme
what I
Premier ministre du
intend to do
Canada.
as Prime Minister of Canada.
Thank you very much. Well, what we need to do is put Canada first for a change. You know, when I say that I'm going to cut taxes and unleash our resource production, bring home our jobs, that's bad news for President Trump, because it means we're going to be bringing back not only the investment the Liberals have driven south, but also becoming more self-reliant and sovereign to stand on our own feet and stand up to President Trump. That is how we put our country first, and it's how we bring real change to Canadians.
Thank you. Next question. Prochaine question.
Bonjour, M. Poilievre, Christian Noël de Radio-Canada.
Radio-Canada.
Les gens dans la
Bonjour.
rue nous disent...
Bon matin.
Vous aussi.
Good morning.
Aussi. Les gens dans la rue nous disent qu'ils
People
cherchent
on
un
the
Capitaine
streets
Canada
are
pour se
saying
protéger
that
de
they're
Donald
looking
Trump
for a
Oui.
Captain
et un
Canada to
antidote
protect them
à Donald Trump.
and an
Comme
antidote to
l'expliquait
Donald
mon collègue
Trump.
Boris,
As my
certaines
colleague Boris
politiques
just said,
dont vous faites la promotion
some
ressemblent
of the
à ce que
policies
Donald
you're
Trump
promoting
propose.
are similar
Les
to
gens dans la
those
rue
put
s'inquiètent
forward
de
by
ça.
President Trump, and people
Comment
in the
pouvez-vous
street
vous
are worried
distinguer
about
de
that.
Donald Trump
How can you
à ce
differentiate
moment-ci
yourself from
pour
Donald
rassurer
Trump
les
at this
Canadiens?
time
J'ai
in
pas
order
entendu
to
la façon
reassure
dont
Canadians?
vos politiques
I haven't
sont
seen
différents de
how
Donald
your
Trump,
policies
comment
are
vous
different
êtes capable
from
de
those
rassurer les
of
Canadiens
Mr.
que vous
Trump,
n'êtes pas
and
lui?
how can
À
you
part de dire que vous êtes
reassure
Canadien.
people that's the case if you
Mais
are
tout
reelected?
d'abord, j'ai dit
Well,
que
first of all,
je veux le contraire que Donald Trump. Il
I've
veut,
said I
par
want the
exemple,
opposite of Donald
imposer
Trump.
des tarifs
He wants
sur nos
to
entreprises,
impose
les taxes sur
tariffs
les
on
entreprises
our
canadiennes.
industries and on
C'est les
our
libéraux qui
companies.
veulent faire pareil.
It's
Les
the
libéraux veulent
liberals that want
taxer
to do
nos
that. They want to
entreprises
tax our
en même
businesses
temps que Donald Trump fait la même chose.
as Donald Trump
Donald
does
Trump
the
veut
same.
prendre nos ressources
Donald Trump
au
wants
prix
to
bas.
take our
Et c'est les
resources
libéraux
away from
qui
us at the
l'ont
lowest
permis,
price. And
qui
it's
lui
the
ont
liberals
permis de le faire en
that
bloquant
have
les
allowed him to
pipelines,
do that by
les-
blocking the construction
les
of
usines de gaz
pipelines
naturel,
and natural
les
gas
expansions
plants
portuaires.
and
C'est les
expansion of
libéraux
our
qui ont
port facilities.
favorisé
The
les
liberals
intérêts de Donald Trump
have
en affaiblissant notre
worked
pays.
in the favor of Donald
Moi, je
Trump
veux
rather than
le
Canada.
contraire.
And
Je
I
veux
want the
ramener le
reverse.
demi-billion
I
dollars
want
que les
to
libéraux
bring
ont
back the
expulsé vers
$500 billion
les
that the liberals drove
Parce
to the
que
United States.
Quand je parle aux
Because
gens
when
sur
I
la
talk
rue,
to
vous avez
people
parlé des
in the
gens sur la
street,
rue.
you talked about people in the
Ils ont
street.
peur,
Well,
savez-vous ce qu'ils disent?
You know what they're saying?
Ils ont peur de perdre leurs emplois.
They're afraid
Parce
of
que
losing their
notre économie est
jobs
faible
because
après
our
10
economy
ans des
is weak
libéraux.
after 10 years of the
Ils ont
liberals.
peur de ne pas
They're
pouvoir payer
afraid
leurs
of not being
épiceries
able to
ou
pay for
acheter un
groceries
logement.
or buy a house or
Moi, je
a
suis le
place to
seul
live. And
qui
I'm
leur
the
offre
only person
un vrai changement
offering
pour
true
ramener la
change
promesse du Canada,
to bring back the
pour
promise of
ramener nos
Canada,
emplois
to bring
ici,
back jobs to
et pour
Canada,
permettre à nos
and
gens d'avoir
allow
une belle
people to
future
have a great
comme
future
nos parents et nos grands-parents
like our
ont eu.
parents and
Merci.
grandparents had.
English.
Well, you ask about the concerns of people on the street. What I hear from people on the street is they are concerned that after the lost Liberal decade, they can't afford homes. They're eating at food banks or cutting back on nutrition. They're worried about crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder. And they're worried that that Canada and our economy is now more dependent than ever on the Americans after the Liberals blocked pipelines, stopped resource development, and gave America our resources at a discount. And what I say to those people is that change is on the way. We're going to put Canada first. We're going to axe taxes, unleash home building, produce our resources here in Canada and export them overseas by going around the Americans so that we can take back control of our economy and our national destiny. That's what it means to put Canada first for a change.
Merci. On va passer à la dernière question. Last question.
Merci.
Hello, Mr. Poilievre. Mark Ramsey with the Toronto Star. Your party was the target of foreign interference in the last two election campaigns, but you're going into this one without the security clearance necessary to receive briefings on this. When should Canadians expect you to get that security clearance?
Well, I've already had clearance. I was a minister in cabinet already, and the government has the ability to give me any information they think necessary. But what I'm not going to do is go into a process, a politically directed process by the Liberals that they use to decide what I can see and say and comment on. We know that the Liberals have made Canada a playground to foreign interference. They're the ones that have benefited from foreign interference. We also call on the government to have the foreign agent registry set up for this election so that Canadians know if any foreign or hostile regimes are intervening in our democracy so that we can expose that and protect ourselves.
En français, s'il vous plaît.
Merci beaucoup. J'ai déjà
Thank you very much.
eu cette permission.
I already got that clearance because I was in cabinet, so that is not an issue at all. When it comes to receiving information, security and intelligence officials already have the ability to talk to me about potential threats, so they can do that. But I am not going to agree to be unable to speak through this kind of process, particularly after seeing the politicization of this issue by the Liberals.
À la prochaine.